What's up, guys? It's your host, Lance here, and welcome to A Little About Life podcast. This show is where I talk about different topics in life and in the world through a biblical and Christ-centered perspective. This podcast is made to help give you guys a community where you feel seen, heard, and loved, and where you can grow in your faith. Let's get started on the show. What's up, family? Welcome back to A Little About Life. I am excited for this episode. I'm excited for this podcast. Man, I do feel like God has called me to this, and it's really exciting just hearing what you guys have responded with and seeing you guys' just feedback. Man, it's been amazing. And I just want to thank you guys for all tuning in. You know, I really feel like in this point of my life, God has been calling me to do a few things and to use my gifts. And I do want to be of help, to people. And I do want people to know that they have community and that they're not alone. So I just want to thank you guys so much for just tuning in, and everybody that has watched and joined for my first episode back last week to this episode right now. I just want to give just a personal shout out to you guys. And man, 2023, we are going to be rocking, together as a family, just walking through this thing called life together, seeing where God has taken us, seeing the journeys that we're all on. So I appreciate you guys. You guys are more special to me than you guys know. So yeah, let's get started. This episode today is called Rock Bottom. And rock bottom is a place where I'm all too familiar with. I feel like I've hit the lowest point in my life a few times. And I'm not ashamed of it. I don't regret it. But yeah, I'm pretty familiar with it. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys have walked through it or walking through a rock bottom phase right now. And I just want to let you guys know that you're not alone. You are not alone. You don't have to feel like, man, like, is it ever going to end? I'm here to tell you it does end. Okay. So yeah. The first thing I want to say before I get into that is that rock bottom is subjective, okay? Rock bottom is all perspectives for some people. Some people's rock bottom might be different from your rock bottom. We cannot judge how people are handling life. There are things that people are dealing with on the inside and in their minds that we just don't know about, So it's best for us to be slow to speak and to not judge people. Because your rock bottom, the lowest point of your life and the worst point of your life might be just someone's just normal day, or it might be vice versa. Someone's normal day might be the worst, might be easy for you, or, vice versa. So I just want to let you guys know, like, don't judge people too harshly. Rock bottom it's all subjective. There are things that people are dealing with that we don't understand. You losing your job and you having to fight for something that you love, it might just be a normal day for you, or it might be something that you can deal with and you don't feel like your head is underneath water, right? But for someone that has been battling suicidal thoughts and battling depression, that might be something that pushed them over the edge, So I just wanted to start off with saying that rock bottom is all subjective, and I'm not going to say that any of this is easy that I'm about to share with you and how to, change our view on rock bottom. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I'm going to say what God, I feel like God has told me to say, and what I feel like his word has pointed me and pointed us to look at. So let's get into it. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about was that rock bottom is meant to shape you, is meant to grow you, and is meant to mature you. Okay. So what I mean by that is you won't be the same person that you're going to be, when you're finished with this. You're not going to be the same if you actually dive into, what God is calling you in that season. You see what I'm saying? Rock bottom is hard. Rock bottom is a place where we don't want to be forever. But the lessons that you learn down there, the places that you've seen and the people that you have to deal with, it's shaping you for the future. Everything happens for a reason, and rock bottom is here for a reason. You're going through what you're going through for a reason, because the future you is going to thank you for how you handle it and how you got out of it. I'm going to share a verse in James 1, and this is what, God, I feel like, pointed me to when I was going through rock bottom. So I'm going to read James 1, 2 through 12. And I'm going to slow it down a little bit so that way everybody can catch up and understand. But yeah, James chapter 1, verses 2 through 12. It says, "Consider pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." Okay? Your faith needs to be tested. How are we going to have faith if it's not tested, if it's not stretched? Okay? That's how your faith grows, through those tough times. 4, let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Okay, so when I hear that, I'm thinking we have to not rush out of the season because it's meant to grow us into who we're going to be. We have to accept it, and like I said, it's easier said than done, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. I'm gonna read 4 again. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. Believers in humble circumstances ought to take pride in their high position. Okay? Believers in humble circumstances ought to take pride in their high position. Okay? I'm going to go down to 12. 12 says this: "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, having stood the test. That person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." Okay? So when I say that rock bottom is meant to mature you, meant to grow you, I say it like this, right? When I was at a pretty low point in my life and I was struggling with depression, and growing up, as a black man and around black people and just in our community, we never talked about depression. We never talked about when you're mentally kind of off, and now I see a lot of improvement. Me and my dad talk about it a lot, and I see in the black community it's actually just like something that is actually being taken a lot more serious, and it warms my heart. But years ago, I was going through depression, and it was a pretty rough few months for me. It didn't last that long, but it felt like years, to be honest. Like when I talk about it, like looking back on it now, me going through that depression, me going through those low moments in my life, it wasn't as long as it seemed. It seemed like forever, but going through that, I found different ways to healthily cope, so now I know when I'm a little off, I know how to cope healthily. Instead of coping with how the world, told me to cope and how I used to want to cope, going to parties or, using substance, I cope now with just filling myself up with things that push me towards the Lord and that give life, you know what I'm saying? And we have to understand that if we don't go through things, we won't know how to handle things, right? So you sleeping in your car, you being homeless, you losing your job, you going through so much that you're going through, it's all for a reason. You will learn and you will grow from it, because in the future, when life gets tough and life gets a little shaky, and when things hit the fan, you're like, all right, I've been through this. God has shown me his faithfulness through it. I'm good. Okay, I don't have to panic. All right. So when I say this, like I said, it's not easy. It's not always, something that you remember while you're going through the lowest times of your life. But I just wanted to give you guys a reminder of God's goodness and his faithfulness, and just how much he loves and cares about us. And that brings me to something else that I want to talk about, is that when we're in rock bottom, we have a God that understands. He understands. God isn't looking at us from heaven and just like, yo, let's go, man. Let's get out of this thing. Like, let's hit the road. He's not like, come on, like, Lance, why are you taking so long to get out of your situation? No, we have a God that understands and he feels for us when we're hurting and when we're in pain, and that's something that touched my heart. Learning that Jesus actually felt pain, and that he had emotion, and that he actually feels what I'm feeling. It lets me know that my God actually cares about me. God actually cares about you. We have a God that actually cares about us. So I want us to lean into him in our hardest times, in the most difficult times of our life. God is not saying that he can just remove everything that we're going through. He's not saying that. Sometimes I wish God would just like, yo, God, just take all this pain away, take all this struggle away. But no, he's saying, I will be here with you, and I will help instill the courage inside of you for you to grow. So we have to lean into that, and we have to really just thank God for being understanding and not giving up on us and not looking at us from heaven, and just because there's times where I know God looking down at me when I'm in my lowest moments, and sometimes I feel like God is just like, Lance, like, let's go, get up, man. Like, you gonna lay there all day? You're gonna sit there and cry all day? You're gonna sit there and just be in a mental rut all day? Like, I've given you all this opportunity, but God isn't like that. God isn't sitting there judging us for the pain and the struggle that we're going through. God is like, all right, look, my son, I love you, and I'm here with you, and I'm walking with you through this thing step by step. Okay? And rock bottom also allowed me to be realigned with the Lord. Rock bottom allowed me to restore my relationship with him, because when life is good, we tend to lean on our own understanding. We tend to think that we don't need God. The most times that we pray, the most times that we go in our prayer closets and we're listening to worship and we're on fire for the Lord, is when life is tough. And I'm not speaking for everybody, but I know at least for me, at least in the past, I feel like I've grown a lot in my walk with God. But in the past, the times that I would really just want to be with God all day, every day, is when I needed an answer and I needed a next step. You see what I'm saying? So I believe that God is allowing us to hit rock bottom to realign with him, to place our faith back in him instead of our works or the world. Okay? God never leaves us. And a lot of times when we're going through tough times, when we're going through things that are so taxing to us, we tend to look up at heaven and say, well, God, where are you? I'm going through this. I feel this pain and I'm hurting. But God, where are you? Why aren't you here helping me? And God is consistent. God has never changed, and he never will change. So if we don't feel God in our rock bottom, that means it's not God who walked away from us or who moved away from us, but it's actually us maybe who maybe have moved away from him. The speed of life may have gotten to us and we've kind of left God out, and God is like an afterthought. Or we kind of idolize the person and that person became our happiness instead of the one who gives us joy. Or we idolize money, and money's something that is really hard not to idolize, to be honest, because it is a tool, but it also, can be addicting to get, So sometimes we can move away from God without even knowing it. And that is why God allows us to hit the bottom, because when you hit the bottom, you have nowhere to look but up. You have nowhere to look but up. And when we're looking up consistently, it forces us to grow up and grow closer to him. My worst times in life, I hated them. If I'm being honest, I did not appreciate those times, but it helped me grow so close to God. I remember this. Check this out, guys. During a period of my life where, I'm looking for an answer. I'm looking for God to pull through for me. I'm looking for God to really just show me that he's good, because I don't physically see his goodness, right? So I would go and I would pray, I would read my word, and I changed how I would talk to God, I would just do a lot of listening because I was so focused on just wanting to get an answer from God and wanting to hear his voice. And throughout the days and the weeks and the months that I was listening, I felt like I wasn't getting a word from God. But me going to listen for God, me going to hear from God, even though I wasn't getting anything audibly, it strengthened our relationship because I was spending time with him and I was staying in there. I was lingering in there instead of going in there for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, or I'm not trying to judge about the amount of time, but just going in there for a short amount of time and getting all of what I had to say and then going about my day, treating prayer and reading the Bible like a routine. Me going and thirsting after the Lord because I wanted to hear him actually just helped grow my relationship with him. So my rock bottom, my pain, the lowest points of my life actually had a purpose because it made me lean on him. It made me go to him more and more and more and more, But I want you guys to know also that rock bottom is a season. It's a season. I got a chance to ask a few people as I was preparing for this episode, tell me about your rock bottom. How did you get out of it? What are the biggest things that you learned through it? And what I got a lot from people is that it's just a season. People that, have been on this earth a lot longer than me, they would just tell me it comes and goes. And Ecclesiastes actually tells us that everything comes in season. There's a season for everything. There's a season for everything. There's a season for us to rejoice, and there's a season for us to struggle a little bit. So while we're struggling for a little bit and while we're in the moments of pain, we have to understand that God isn't going to leave us here. God is not going to leave us here. The God that created you so beautifully and wonderfully, he's not going to leave you at the lowest point of your life. The God that sent his son to die for your sins, why would he do all of that just to leave you in the middle of chaos, in the middle of trials, in the middle of you going through a heartbreak or depression or just frustration and so much anger on your heart? He's not going to leave you there. We have to stop thinking that God has just forgot about us, because I'm telling you, he loves you guys. I'm telling you, every person that I went and I asked about, rock bottom. How was your rock bottom? How was your hey, it was 4 seasons. It's 4 seasons. So that gives me comfort in knowing that when I'm in rock bottom, to not panic, to not think God has forgotten about me. Okay. Another thing that I heard people to say that is that, like I said in the beginning, the soldier that you are coming out of the battle is not the soldier that you were coming into the battle. You were able to learn how to maneuver. You learned how you needed to handle people. The soldier that goes in is not the same soldier that comes out. Without rain, there is no rainbow. The beautiful times in our life comes from the struggle. It comes from the complexities and our insecurities and our disappointments. That's where the most beautiful times of life actually prevail, because it actually helps you appreciate it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people go through things and in the middle of it, it sucks for them. But when I see them walk out of it, they're so thankful for it. I wouldn't be thankful for half the things I have today if it was just handed to me, if I didn't have to constantly go and pray for it, if I didn't have to constantly work for it or wait for it. No, it wouldn't. I wouldn't appreciate it as much as I do now. My girlfriend, I'll tell you guys a little bit. My girlfriend right now, I prayed for so long, and we were friends for a long time. But what God was doing in that time is he was maturing me. He was maturing me. My job, I was jobless for 3 months. I'm so appreciative of my job because I know what it's like to be without a job. But God was maturing me. I probably wasn't ready yet, or God was setting up the stage for what he was going to do. And that's when I love when God does that. When God sets up what he's going to do. Sometimes the bad and the ugly and the hard time, it actually is giving God a chance to make a grand entrance and say, boom, I'm here for you and I'm here with you. Because everything that happens ultimately is for the glory of God. So you coming out of what you you have come out of, you coming out of the lowest point of your life, you rising up from rock bottom, isn't for you to praise yourself. It's actually for you to give all the credit to God. It's actually for you to show the world and show the witnesses that you couldn't do this on your own. So it's a good chance for us to point people to Jesus. So guys, as you can see, I'm thankful for my rock bottom, you know, and I just want to let you guys know that the ones that are going through a tough time, you know, it might be the hardest thing that you ever have been battling. I want you to know that I'm here for you, and I understand. We have a God that understands. We have a God that loves despite our complexities. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm excited for what God is doing. I'm telling you, keep tuning in. Keep coming back. You know, I'm going to continue to just let the Lord guide me through this. And yeah, if you feel like this has been fruitful, let me know in the comments, and just kind of let me know what you're looking forward to hearing. You know, what more content would you like to see? And yeah, just stick with me. Let's ride this thing out together. I'll see you guys next week for another episode of A Little About Life. Thank you. Have a good night.